they see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding dirty, trying to catch me riding dirty, trying to catch me riding dirty, trying to catch me riding.
Hi, my name is Alicia Miller. Hi, my name is Zina Satorpo.
Hello, I am Morgan Tang.
And we are They See Us Rollin', and welcome to our game.
Lucky doesn't.
In King's Cup, each card represents a rule that is associated with a drinking consequence or reward. The game ends when the fourth king is drawn, and the one who drew it becomes the biggest loser having to drink the King's Cup. Our game resembles this game, but instead of cards, we have the sum of 2 die. And instead of drinking consequences, we have a point system set up to either reward or take away players' points. Two. 2 is all of you. Everyone except for the person who rolled will gain 1 point. 3. 3 is me. The person who rolled gains 1 point. 4. 4 is more. The person who rolled gains 4 points. 5. 5 is guys. All male players gain 1 point. 6. 6 is chicks. All female players gain 1 point. 7. 7 is heaven. The person with the highest amount of points loses 1 point. 8. 8 is mate. The player who rolled chooses another player to be linked to. The player can then choose the number of points taken from the chosen player. 9. 9 is mine. The person who rolled loses 2 points. 10. 10 is roll again. This player will have their turn skipped. 11. 11 is 7-11. The player who rolled loses 7 points. 12 is themselves. No points are lost when there is a 12 rolled, but the player who rolled the second 12 will end the game.
Well, my only job is not handling the signs, but I'm going to show you an easy tutorial of how to actually play the game. The first thing will pop up is a starting screen where it will offer you 2 choices, 2 buttons. One is Game Now, the other one is Game Rule. And if you're not sure what the game rule is, you can click this open and the message box will tell you the steps and how you can play the game Lucky Dozen. And when you're ready, press Game Now, and now you will type in the name of your players. First, player 1, and enter the gender of player 1, and you do that for all 4 players. Once you're done, click OK. Now we'll get into the actual game. And what you're seeing here right now is the scoreboard and a button that we can roll our dice. How this game is played is that once you get into this screen, you press roll the dice. The dice you roll will be shown on this orange box, which is the score screen. Once you hit it, depends on what round you're on, and hit the round button. So now this is player 1, round 1. And it will record your sum of your dice and the special score. If you're not sure what the special score is, you can check this box, which is the dice combo chart, which each sum of 2 die will represent a certain special score. And you keep rolling the dice and keep playing the game until the second 12 shows up. You see, now we have 1. Until the second 12 shows up, the game will terminate, or when you finish all 20 rounds throughout the whole scoreboard. So I was in charge of designing the starting GUI and the main game GUI. So in the starting GUI, what I did is I created 2 buttons. One button is the starting game, where I have a prompt cell and a input box where it will allow me to take information, the name and genders of the players, which they will be global variables eventually, and taking account into the actual game. And the other button I created is the game rule button, which there are 2, one here, one in the main game. What it does is that I use this help box, which once you click it, it will display the rules, and these 2 buttons are both in the starting screen and in the actual game. So the other thing I do is designing the GUI for the actual game. How I did it is that, as we've seen earlier, I have round buttons for each specific round you click after you roll the dice. And those buttons are called Go in my function, which what they do is that they take in account of the dice sum, and they execute a series of switch statements that will be explained later by my colleagues, Alicia. And also what I did is the roll dice button, where it will generate 2 random numbers, 1 to 6, and they add them together to display the sum of the dice. The last thing I did is the animation, where I taking account of the variable dice1 and dice2 and put them in a switch case, and it will displace the image of the face of the dice, depends on what value it is. And now, here's Alicia.
Hi, so I was in charge of the switch statement used for all the round buttons. So we have each case here representing a different sum. And for each sum, they represent their corresponding rules that were explained earlier in the video. Now, for the more difficult ones, like 2, which we had to apply to each different one because there's a different rule for each person. And the same thing with 7, as we have to decide which has the highest score in order to do so. So we had to do a switch statement inside of the big switch statement. And then for case 8, we had 2 pop-ups come up for which player do you choose, and then how many points do you want to take away from that player. And then we had to do another switch statement accounting for each possible player to be chosen. And then 12, which was also a special case because if you choose 1, then it goes to 0 and there's nothing that happens. But if you choose 2, then the game completely ends. And I was also in charge of the sound effects that we used, which is the gong, the fireworks, and the dice rolls. And we used this to call each one. There's a file name, and then an A and an FS. A represents the array that codes for the file, and then FS represents the frequency. And this was used for all the sound effects. I was also in charge of writing the rules, which were explained earlier, and for the production of this video.
Hello, I was in charge of writing the project proposal, and I was also in charge of creating the object-oriented program. In this program, we have a class definition of final scores, and we have first, second, third, and fourth place. We have name 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as the global sum 1, sum 2, sum 3, sum 4. Each of these functions are the same for each case, just the order 1 through 4 changes because they are sorted in order. We also have an else statement going on. If 2 people have the same score, there is a no place tie that pops up in the result GUI. In the result GUI we have the functions that call the final score class definition to get a final product that looks something like this. And that was my part of the project.
We hope you enjoy our game.
And remember, if you keep on rolling the dice,
You might get a lucky dozen.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying.